Terribly sorry, dear. I've done it again. I went onto Temu and bought more stuff for the Warhammer hobby. Again. Much better. Once again, I'm going to be seeing if we can actually get stuff on Temu that's actually decent for the Warhammer hobby. Now, I'm going to put my hard-earned cash on the line so that you don't have to. All you've got to do is sit back in your armchair, your bed, your sofa, your gaming chair, wherever it is that you reside whilst watching YouTube, and just watch me possibly waste money on stuff that could or may not be good for the Warhammer hobby. So to start us off, we've got a tape measure. Now, I know what you're thinking. Yes, it is just a tape measure, but it's a cheap tape measure. And it actually comes in at £1.66. £1.66 for a 3-meter tape. It's just a tape. That's all it is. For £1.66. Now, I don't know if there's many shops in the UK, specifically, that sell tapes for less than £2. I'm pretty sure most tapes nowadays are around about the £5 to £20 mark, depending on what brand you go for and what shop you get them from. But I've got to admit, £1.66 for a tape measure, it's not really that bad. Build quality is all right. It's a tape measure. There's not really much I can say about it. It's got a hook. It's got a nice little carry handle. Not that you really need a carry handle for a tape measure, but it gubs with it. You know, the little extra gubbins mean something. Do you know what I mean? Overall build quality, about what you'd expect. The only issue I have with this tape measure is when I was testing it, is that if you hold it out far enough, it comes back very quickly. Which means if you're just, you know, putting your finger underneath to kind of support it and stop the tape measure from rolling back, and then you accidentally let it go by accident, that could cause some damage to your skin, all right? I used to be a carpenter, and I have, in fact, cut myself multiple times with a tape measure. Now, you might be thinking, how is that even possible? The edge right there, if it comes back long enough and fast enough, it is a bit like a razor. So that is a possible danger when handling tape measures. One of the most innocent-looking tools in a workman's bag, and yet it can still cut you. But that is quite literally the only thing that I can fault this tape for. £1.66 for a tape that goes up to 3 meters. Considering that Warhammer boards don't actually stretch that long, you don't need all 3 meters. For the Warhammer hobby, you might as well get it. You know, £1.66. So instead of going out and spending 15 quid on a Stanley tape, I don't actually know whether Stanleys cost that much these days, but hey, you can't go wrong for a couple of quid for a tape measure that, if it breaks, it's not the end of the world. You can always go and buy yourself a new one if it does break, but just be careful of the closing speed. Now, usually in these types of videos, I give these products a scam rating. I'm not actually going to rate them in terms of whether or not they're a scam 1 to 10. This video, I'm just going to say straight up if it's a scam or whether you should buy it. The tape, I think you should buy it. Now, next up isn't an item that you would typically tend to buy for the Warhammer hobby, but I bought this for an upcoming video in the future at some point, maybe sometime next year, I'd imagine is when I'll probably do the video. But I bought some makeup brushes. And they come in this little pouch. It's not a very high quality pouch, but then again, it's from Temu. What do you expect? They come in different sizes. Again, the quality isn't amazing because it's Temu. And these cost £1.39. Recommended retail price is £7.99. Which, again, I don't use makeup brushes. I don't wear makeup. I don't know too much about prices of makeup brushes. But that being said, for £1.39, for 13 makeup brushes at different... Well, I mean, they're all kind of... I think there's a couple repeats. There's some with a different bevel of an edge, and there's some with a pointier edge, and there's shorter, bristly one, and there's ones with puffier sets of, you know, bristles, I guess. For what you get for £1.39 again, it's a bit of a steal. Now, what I'll be doing with this one day is trying to see if I can actually paint a miniature with just makeup brushes. Obviously, I don't know how that's going to go, so we're going to have to wait until the future to see how they actually fare. But again, £1.39 for 13 makeup brushes, it's not a scam. So if you want to try it yourself and see if you can paint a Warhammer miniature with makeup brushes, be my guest. If it doesn't work, I can't say I warned you, because I haven't warned you yet until the actual video comes out. So let me know in the comments if you have or will ever try painting with makeup brushes. Okay, next in the box, if I can get the cardboard box open, is a filament printed. Does it come with extra bits? Oh, it does. Oh, that would be that. Okay, so next up we have filament printed. It would help if I didn't drop the item that I was about to show you. So the next product that cost me £20.79 is a modular trench terrain set for tabletop war games. I think this is actually a pretty good size. I feel like you could definitely fit some of your Warhammer infantry down in the center if you so wish to actually put them into the trenches. Now, this is filament printed, so it's obviously got the filament fill lines, but I think this is actually really good. I think this is actually really good quality, personally. It even comes with a cross section. It is actually, I did actually set this out earlier. It takes up a fair bit, or would take up a fair bit of your gaming board, so you wouldn't really be able to have too many other things on the board itself. But for what this is, £20.79, do I think it's a scam? Nah, not really. No. I think this is really good, personally. I think this is really good quality. Obviously, the only downside to filament printing is the fact that you do get those horrible lines, which you can get rid of in certain ways and certain sort of techniques. For just having terrain that you can actually play with on the tabletop, if you just give it a quick spray up, a little bit of acrylic paint here and there, having it on the middle of your gaming board, I don't think you can really go wrong with that, because obviously it's not going to be as good a quality as a Warhammer figurine, but for what it is, pretty good. Not a scam. So this, funnily enough, was actually taken off of the website. I think I know why. Now, you should be careful when handling 3D printed miniatures. So what we have here is a dreadnought. It's tiny. Now, it does actually specify on the ad that it is 6.2 centimeters by 5.9 centimeters, which in inches is roughly 2.4 inches by 2.3 inches, give or take. Now, this, compared to the size of my hand, is tiny. Now, I did want to buy this as a test model. My issue isn't with the size of the model, it's the fact that it's still wet, which means it hasn't actually cured properly. The actual quality of the mold, if you can see that, hopefully you can see that, is actually really bad. It's not great at all. The quality of the detailing on the back is just as bad. Overall, the print quality isn't actually that great. All the details are very, very small. Honestly, you are better off just either printing these yourself or just using them as a throwaway model. Now, obviously, one thing I will say, and again, I mean, you do get extra sponges, which is kind of cool. The fact they give you some sponges that you can use for the Warhammer hobby. Obviously, you don't need to, but they're there if you want them. Now, it does go without saying that when you're handling 3D printed miniatures, whether you're using resin, whether you're using anything else, when you're actually 3D printing, whatever it is you're 3D printing, the stuff that is actually used in the process is very toxic. So if you do happen to order something online and it does come wet or oily or something just doesn't seem right about the product, make sure after handling it, you are in fact washing your hands, because whatever it is, you don't know what it is. It could be sticky, it could be wet, it could be not dried properly, it could be still curing. Whatever the issue is, and it is something that is wrong with the product, please make sure you're washing your hands. Now, the next product I have isn't necessarily something that you use every single day or with every single model that you create in the Warhammer hobby. However, for the people that want to do their own tabletop scenery, whether they want to create dioramas, whether they want to create their own gaming board, I have bought this. Now, this only cost me £6.76, and this is basically just plaster of Paris, or rolls of plaster gauze that you put down onto things and then wet them, and then when they dry, they go rock hard, so you can create different bits of scenery and rocks and things like that. So I'm yet to test this, because once I've completely finished and painted all of my orcs, I will be moving on to actually creating a gaming table for me and my friends. I'm going to be using a lot of the products I have bought in previous videos, as well as this, to actually create the gaming table. So I'll let you know in due course how this actually handles, but for £6.76 for, I think I've got 6 rolls here. Is it 6 rolls? I can't actually tell. It's 6 rolls of it. So 6 rolls for £6.76. That's pretty much £1.15 to 20p a roll. I don't think that's too bad, actually. I think that's pretty good. I'm going to say not a scam. So the only thing so far that we've actually been scammed by is the dreadnought. Okay, next up on the list, I can't even get into the box. Oh, yeah, I know exactly what this is. Again, loads more foam. Great for the Warhammer hobby, that is. Throwaway foam that you don't need to worry about getting dirty or ruining, because you can just throw it away, basically. Okay, so here we have a 3D printed Space Marine. Now, this is actually bigger than a standard Space Marine model. Now, again, you could pretty much only just use this for a tester model to test out paint schemes, or if you're worried about painting for the first time, getting yourself a cheap old model online is a good idea, just to kind of test your skills, see how you paint, see what you like, see what you don't like, see what methods you like, see what methods you don't like. Getting yourself a tester model is always a good idea, because before you actually start on something that you've paid nearly 40 quid for just 10 models, you do kind of want to test things out first. So again, getting yourself a test model, good idea. This, in terms of what you pay for, now obviously this has been taken off of the Temu website because apparently it's sold out. I don't know how a 3D printed miniature can sell out, but it has. It's been taken off of the website, so I can't actually show you any information for it. I can't even remember how much I paid for it. I think this would have been around about the £10 mark, which, again, for a single model, in terms of what it is, how big it is, the quality of it, it's not actually that bad. I personally don't think I've been scammed at all by this. The actual, again, the quality of it is pretty good. I'm not going to lie to you. So, this scam, not really. Okay, so next up, for just under 20 quid, we got ourselves some more terrain pieces. Now, I personally love getting myself some 3D printed terrain from Temu because 9 times out of 10, the quality of what I've ordered in terms of terrain bits and bobs has been pretty good. And for under 20 quid, you get 5 pieces of these things. And they're, again, compared to my hand, pretty sizable pieces. Great to kind of just move and put around in whichever way you kind of want to play the battlefield on any given day. The fact you don't actually have to stick these down, but you can if you want to. Again, quality of them, pretty good. It's, by the looks of it, just a bunch of chunks of rocks with some gems and crystals popping out of the earth just there. You do actually get 5 pieces of this. The other 3 pieces are down to the side of me. I don't actually have 5 hands to hold them all. So, yeah. I think this is pretty good. Now, I'll say this again, and I will stand by this, that getting terrain pieces from Temu, 9 times out of 10, you're not going to go wrong. It's actually going to do you pretty well, and I think this is definitely not a scam. And finally, the last thing. Now, I was fairly excited to receive this in the mail. I have seen some people in the past buy certain things like this from Wish.com, Temu, Alibaba, and whatever other cheap knockoff sites that are out there, and they've given mixed reviews on these types of things. I bought myself a cheap airbrush. I am yet to test this out. I'm actually about to go and test this out and then put this into the video after this part of the video has been recorded, so I'll most likely give you a review whilst doing it. Quality of it isn't actually that bad. The compressor, the air compressor, is just here. It's not loud at all. It's handheld, it's very easily transportable. Now again, I don't know how this actually works, but I accidentally just clicked it back on again. I don't actually know how this works, so I'm literally just going off of face value here and what this actually is like. You do get a fairly small paint pot at the top. £21.22 this cost me, and the proof will be in the testing. So by the looks of things, you kind of have to use this with 2 hands. I can just about see the needle at the very end of it. I'm not going to take it apart before I use it. I'm going to give it a test, give it a use. I'm going to put it through the tests. I won't test it too vigorously because I don't really want to break it, because I did spend 20 quid on this, and if I can use this for base painting, then that's exactly what I'll do. Overall, first opinions on the build quality of the thing. The screw for the top, it's actually not too bad. It's quite nice. It is metal. It's what you'd expect for a £20 airbrush. And the quality of the trigger on top is not the best. In fact, it's actually quite bad. But you can micromanage the amount in which the top lever does get activated, so that's something, I guess. So yeah, over to other Charlie now, and we'll put this airbrush through the tests, and then yeah. Okay, so you have joined me over at my Warhammer desk with my nice bit of A4 paper here. Now this is going to be my A4 paper for testing, and I've also got a miniature here from eBay that was actually given to me by my friend Chris. Ignore the cracking. That's his inability to actually prime miniatures correctly. Obviously, you shouldn't actually have... I'm babbling on. Shut up, Charlie. Shut up. Okay, so here we have... here we have the... Yeah, this is an issue. It doesn't... Well, okay, it does stand up kind of properly, but the moment you move this fucking wire, okay, right, so as we know, the moment you turn it on, air comes out the end, right? So which means I can't actually use this until I'm ready for it. So first things first, we're actually gonna tie that on correctly. This is the first time me ever using this as well, so this will probably go about as well as you might expect. So we have some acrylic paint here by Vallejo Model Color, and this is orange red. So we're going to put some acrylic into the paint pot there. That might have been a little bit too much. Silly me. I don't use this colour too often. It's actually quite runny for what it is. So it may not even need, it may not even need some water that goes into it. But for the experiment, we're going to put some water in it because that's what you're supposed to do. So we're going to grab some water up in the pipette and then we are going to bring it into the top here to make it a nice runny consistency for, okay, we'll put some in there. Nice runny consistency for the airbrush. And I've also bought myself a fancy new microphone, if you couldn't tell. Hopefully this is actually coming through on the microphone, because if not, I'm going to be very upset. That looks like a decent-ish consistency to me. So we're going to put the pipette over there. We're going to put the cap back on and see what happens when I turn this bad boy on. Oh. Okay. I never thought I'd ever say this, but I'm actually pleasantly surprised. Okay, so I'm assuming this nozzle at the back on this in particular model is what you use to change. So I've just wound that back. I don't know if that was on the screen. Just wound that back to see if I can get some more air to come through. So, sorry, more paint, should I say. Okay, I'm slightly, can you see that? You can, can't you? There's some like blotchy sort of like areas where the paint hasn't come through properly. I don't really know what's causing that, but at the same time, I'm actually really impressed with this. This is, so with a low amount of air that comes through, it becomes blotchy, which is obviously, you know, the basic setting. And then you press it again, it goes up to the second setting, still a bit blotchy, and then max air, the third speed that obviously this comes through at, it is quite blotchy. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't actually know how much this is used in terms of paint. Let's have a look, see how much it's used. Oh, okay. So there's still a fair amount in there. Still a fair amount. That's not too bad. Is this, oh my God, I've got paint all over my fingers. Is this the best airbrush on the market? The answer is no. It is not. However, all right. Okay. All right, it needs a stand. That's one thing I've noticed. Although I suppose I could just sort of like rest it on itself. Are you seeing that? There's a fair amount of paint on there. Obviously, you wouldn't use that amount of paint normally, but that is solid coverage. I'm now going to test it on the model. So we'll move that out of the way, and we're now just going to test it on this Space Marine. I'm back, and I'm fully gloved up. Okay. Do you know what? You can kind of hear the quality of the nozzle, right? But hear me out when I say this. Yes, it does sound like a vibrator. It's not amazing, I won't lie. It has kind of worked. Obviously I'll need to perfect the amount of paint that comes out of that. It's very watery, and I might have put too much water in, so I may need to perfect how thick the water is that comes out of the airbrush. However, if you are looking for a cheap airbrush that more or less does what it says on the tin, with a bit of practice and a bit of knowledge into how actually to correctly use airbrushes and how much water to actually mix with the acrylic to get the best consistency, this could actually be a viable airbrush. Now again, going back to the test paper, which we had earlier, I mean, do you know what? I think for the overall quality, the overall build quality of this airbrush, I don't actually think this is a scam. I think for the money you pay for this, I think it's actually all right, personally. I mean, yes, it goes without saying, you should be spending money, a decent amount of money on a decent airbrush if you want to take airbrushing seriously. But this little bit of kit here, if you're just getting started in the hobby and you want it to base your miniatures with like a priming spray of black or whatever you want to put through this, I think you can't really go wrong. It's not the best airbrush out there. It's not even anywhere close. But I would say for a beginner, starting off, and you don't want to spend too much money straight away, I cannot knock this. I wanted to hate this. I really did. But I actually can't fault it. So yeah, not bad at all. And there we have it, another somewhat successful Temu haul. Now I will reiterate once again, because some people don't quite seem to understand this, this is not a sponsored video. This is not Temu paying me any money whatsoever at all. I am not paid, I am not being paid to say anything negative or positive about the Temu products that I am actually reviewing. This is fully and utterly my own opinions of the products that I have received, and this is more just a video for me to explain to you and show you what you can get on Temu if you so wish to, and whether or not you can actually get some decent stuff for the Temu side of Warhammer, I guess you could say. This is going to be my last video of 2025, so if you're watching this before Christmas, have a good one, enjoy yourselves, and I hope you get everything that you have been asking for. If you're watching this during Christmas, I hope you're having a good day, and if you're watching this after Christmas, have a good new year. If you have enjoyed the video at all, make sure you give me a thumbs up down below, and if you really enjoyed it, why not even subscribe? And if you really fancy it, and you want to tide yourself through until my next upload, why not check one of these two videos out just here.